Welcome back, folks. Small update here. Actually, no, it's probably a big update. I went a little bit longer than intended. I lost the original audio, but anyhow, you'll recognize the aluminum frame and the little gantry that I made earlier. And I have it stabilized by a bar that's going off to the back, as you can see, because I still just have it on a 45 there. But I didn't have my better marking laser, so I'm just using one of those little lasers taken from one of those pet pointers, and I started out with the lights off because it was a little easier to see the laser dot, at least to the eye. I found out after the fact the camera here caught the laser pretty well either way. But yeah, that bar going to the back, it's just held down by the weight of some wires at the back. It's plenty enough to hold the frame. And I'm still using the Arduino Mega, the original software. It's just making the little motor up there, which has been converted to bipolar, do 1024 steps, which is one full turn, equals approximately 2.5 centimeters of laser travel. And nice thing about my little work mat there is those are centimeter divisions. And just a reminder, those before, that's the easy driver that I'm driving it with. Previously I killed that one by bumping the wires, and if you have it powered up and you disconnect a coil or a load from your easy driver, you can kill it pretty easy. But as I'm going through here, going over the frame, in the original audio it was dropping in and out, so I'm just gonna record over. But that little carriage up there can hold quite a bit of weight. I mean, you can see I'm adding the bits for the hole drill, and it's not losing any steps. In fact, that little geared motor, it might be slow, but it's strong. It's real strong. I could probably keep adding things there. So looking at this, I thought, well, I could hang a laser on that and maybe move my bigger laser up on this later. And I was actually there I was talking about I could make it go a little bit faster by changing the pulley size, because there it's moving at maximum speed. I could probably up the pulley of that little motor, but right now I think it's 1 centimeter diameter pulleys on those. I'm not sure. I'd have to check that file again. But the whole point was to have smooth and stable motion, and it's moving really smooth. And the little carriage that I made has only held together with double-sided tape. Worked out much better than I expected, way better. I think I've shown you before. It even though it's just using kite string, it moves very well. And if you can see down there on the bottom, I think you can actually even see and measure how far it's moving. Yep. 2.5 centimeters. And I just had that little 3D printed hand in the way of the beam just for the sake of interest, and to see it, because at least to the eye, and I'm seeing it's not picking it up too well on the camera, when the laser hits that yellow PLA, it just glows like crazy. And it's quite striking in person. But as with many things like LEDs and that, they're not captured very well on camera. Now, I've been working on some other projects too at the same time, and as you know, a lot of the stuff I use is mostly recycle things. The smaller, cheaper electric components and stuff, I'll buy those or have them shipped in. But a lot of the times, my little ideas and stuff, I don't like waiting around for stuff to get shipped in, and that's why I made the end caps for the aluminum extrusion. But I started to have an idea, seeing how stiff that upper edge was and some of the linear rails that I'd salvaged from HP printers. I thought, geez, I might be able to make a sliding bed for it, possibly even start working towards a 3D printer. And I just didn't have any bearings, and as you can see there, it didn't take me very long to find online that people have uploaded PLA bearings and bushings. And there's a local store here that actually sells those nice self-lubricating bushings, and I'm going to have to take that rod in. But as you can see here, the bearings and the pillow blocks, they have several patterns and formats you can try, and one of them is kind of like that turbine effect, and the other one is the self-centering springs. And I've tried a bunch of them actually. All of them had slightly different properties. Like, for example, the one that looks more like a turbine, I found rotates very easily on the shaft, but it slides much better than the ones that actually are the self-centering ones. But the ones that are self-centering ones stay smooth, there's no rattle. So I guess it all depends on the pattern. The thing is, with these 8mm rods that are salvaged from printers, some of them aren't perfectly 8mm. Like, I'm bringing this other one here, it's chromed. That one is perfect 8mm. The first one that I had there, that one, is something like 8.05. Some weird, just slightly bigger than 8mm, and you can feel it because I printed a couple of the bushings to be a friction fit, just so they could kind of sit on the end of one of these rods. And then I found that that one there that I'm sliding now, it's just a tiny bit bigger, ever so tiny, and it's the only one. And that one came out of a Canon, I think. The other stuff was HP, but I think that top one came off of a Canon scanner. I'm just going by memory. I don't always remember where all my salvage parts come from. Some of the stuff I do, because they're, you know, as you take apart anything that's new or whatever, you can have some memorable experiences taking them apart. But my end goal here is to take some of the rods, and I've collected a few, bunches of them down in like the 5mm side, and whole bunches in the 8mm. I even have one big 10mm one that came out of a large, very large flatbed scanner. And I realized I had enough of this stuff in the house, I just didn't have bearings or bushings. So I could put it all together and probably make a simple 3D printer. Now, to do that, there's going to be some other support equipment, and I've tried to, where I could, purchase actually, funny enough, used equipment off eBay, trying to keep the costs down. The ramps kit itself had to be supposedly new according to the listing, so I ordered one of those ramps based printer kits, and some used stepper motors that hopefully are all matching. They're on the way in, heat bed and those sort of things, and I think it all wrapped up to under $100, picking from here, there, and everywhere. The end goal would be to have a 3D printer. Then I was looking at, actually, when the original recording this, in the original audio, I was actually looking at that gantry holding the laser, and I came up with the idea that I might do a hybrid. I might use the linear rails for the y-axis, and I have some nice long ones. I might use those, like that long one in the back there. I might use that for the vertical or the z-axis. My shorter 8mm are just perfect for doing the Y. Like, I've tested it out, mapped out the distance between the pillow blocks that would have to hold the heat bed, and it is just perfect with I think 1 centimeter of wiggle room to give for your end stop to engage. But I might want some more vertical build space. And then looking at what rods I had, I also realized I might just use here I'm just showing you that the one set of 8mm rods I have are actually quite long. I might just use a hybrid using that L-shaped aluminum extrusion, and use that actually as the y-axis. So the x-axis, sorry, that would be the x-axis. The y-axis would be on the normal heated build bed would be on your Y as per usual, and then the X would be up on a kind of a gantry much like the one you see there, but with just fresh aluminum extrusion. So it'd be nice and smooth, and I'd do a little bit of a change to the end cap, the end parts there. What I might do is print something like one of the pillow blocks that either glues or zip ties into the end, and make it so that there would be I've got threaded, I don't know if it's Acme rod, but I have some threaded rod and coupling nuts to use to lift it up and down. So what I'd probably use is the linear rod, and then a bushing like this, or a pillow block that would be part of the 3D print to hold the end of that, and then a little bit further out, which would grab the coupling nut and probably a bushing so that the threaded rod doesn't chew the PLA. The local store that sells the bronze bushings that are both graphite or oil lubricated, they carry both, is pretty close, but they're not super cheap, but they're silent pretty much. So I just have to take one of these rods here and get it tested out to see if it moves like this. But I think, just for the sake of trying and out of interest, I might do the x-axis as aluminum extrusion using my L-channel ends, or at least try that. Now, in the original file, or the original audio for this footage, I started to talk about reusing some salvaged L-bracket or L-shaped steel from the bottom of the Lazy Boy chair, actually a couch, so they're quite long, and it's probably just perfect for making a tabletop CNC router and an engraving machine. And I was going to make it have like a dual head that would have this smaller engraver and be able to hold the flexi shaft output of a Dremel, and then probably also have the laser from my other homebrew laser on it. And here I was talking about a friend of mine down in Australia, Ando, actually shipped me this with a whole bunch of little scrap computer parts a year or so ago. And I was talking about some ideas about mounting that and getting it done, whether I was going to do a custom software for it, or continue to try and use maybe a GBRL, or I might actually just continue with the custom software that I made for my laser engraver. I just wasn't sure. I have a feeling I'll probably just get some GBRL source and sort of hack off a branch that supports having multi-tools the way that I want it, so it can control my laser properly. And then I started to just sort of play around when I was talking about some other ideas coming up on the craziness that is my channel, and realized that there are still some things regarding the bearings and the bushings. And then for all you guys that like the channel, you know, you already know I'm a little bit crazy with my inventions. So, you know, if you like videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. It lets me know that you do like it, and you're not going to miss any of the crazy random inventions or that I do. It's usually something I'll see or I'll have thought of or something, and I'll get stuck at work somewhere and I'll be waiting to get home and make something. And when I was actually talking here, I didn't even really realize I was playing around with the little zip tie. This is a prime example of the crazy little ideas that I get. And I realized just as I was talking that the zip tie was moving very easily on the rails. I actually wasn't talking about the rails. I was talking about making skateboard bearing linear slides for the larger CNC, or if I would do something like that with this current project. And as you can see, I just jammed the zip tie into that bearing and realized it acted like a brake when the pressure was too high. But when the pressure was just right, it glides on the steel, the chrome and the non-chromed hardened steel rod, like, beautifully. And I was thinking about making a bushing or a bearing that maybe had 2 or 4 of those inserted in it, somehow held in the PLA, so that the actual bearing surface or the contact surface was the nylon push rod, and that would be pretty slippy. That's an example of and how those crazy thoughts might just pop up. Sometimes they just happen while I'm working. Anyhow, like I said, if you like or you have any comments, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Put your comments below. I like to know what you guys are thinking as well. And if you stuck it in this long, you know, thanks for sticking it out. And as always, thanks for watching. and I'll keep making the videos and putting them up, and hopefully next time I won't screw up the audio and you can have the original audio, although I'm pretty sure as disjointed as all this sounded, it came out a heck of a lot better than the original audio. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And maybe next time we'll get the audio right. Yeah. Anyhow, see ya.